And my best friend stole my business. I want to start with this. I'm not a vengeful person. I don't enjoy conflict. I'm the kind of guy who apologizes when someone else bumps into me. But there is a limit, and Marcus and I had been friends since we were 19. College roommates freshman year, assigned randomly. By the end of that first semester, we were inseparable. The kind of friendship that feels permanent. The kind you don't question. After graduation, we both ended up in Phoenix. Different jobs, same city, same group of friends. We hung out 2 or 3 times a week. He was the best man at my wedding. I was godfather to his daughter. In 2019, we decided to start a business together, a small logistics consulting firm. We'd both spent years in supply chain, me in operations, him in client relations. The idea was simple. We complemented each other perfectly. I ran the back end. He ran the front end. I built the systems. He brought in the clients. We put in equal money. We signed equal ownership, 50-50. And for 2 years, it worked. Better than worked. By 2021, we had 14 clients and were pulling in more than either of us had made in our corporate jobs. I was proud of what we built. More than that, I was proud of us. 2 guys who'd met as teenagers, building something real. Then, in March of 2002, I noticed something off in the accounts. A small thing at first. An invoice that didn't match. A client payment that came in but didn't show up in our shared ledger the way it should have. I figured it was a bookkeeping error. I flagged it to Marcus. He said he'd look into it. He didn't. A week later, another one. And another. I started pulling records quietly, not because I suspected Marcus. I want to be clear about that. I trusted him completely. I was just being thorough. What I found took me 3 days to fully accept. Marcus had been creating duplicate invoices, billing clients through a second account, one I didn't know existed, registered under a shell company with a name almost identical to ours. The clients paid, the money went to him. Not to us, to him. The total, across all the transactions, was just under $200,000. I sat at my desk for a long time, looking at the spreadsheet, just looking at it. Like if I stared long enough, the numbers would rearrange themselves into something that made a different kind of sense. They didn't. I didn't call him. I didn't confront him. I called a lawyer. My lawyer told me 2 things. First, this was textbook wire fraud, and I had a very strong case. Second, don't tip him off. Don't change anything. Let him keep doing it. Why? I asked. Because every transaction after today, she said, adds to the criminal record. Right now you have 14 months of evidence. Give me 6 more weeks, and we'll have a case that puts him in a different category entirely. 6 weeks, I went into the office every day, sat across from Marcus, had lunch with him twice, listened to him talk about growing the business, about taking on new clients, about maybe opening a second office, nodded, smiled, said, "That sounds great." It was the hardest thing I've ever done. On a Tuesday morning in May, my lawyer and a financial crimes investigator walked into our office. I had arranged to be there. I wanted to see it. Marcus looked at the investigator, then at my lawyer, then at me, and I watched, in real time, the moment he understood. He started to say something. "We can work this." "No," I said, that was all. He was charged 8 weeks later. He pled guilty to avoid trial. Restitution, suspended sentence, 5 years probation, lost his professional licenses. His wife left him 6 months after. I didn't feel good about any of it. I want to be honest about that. There was no satisfaction, just a heavy, flat feeling, like the aftermath of something that couldn't be undone. His daughter, my goddaughter, is 9 now. I stopped being in her life when all of this happened. That's the part I think about. Not the money, not Marcus. Her. The business survived. I bought out his share for $1 as part of the settlement. We have 22 clients now. I don't have a best friend anymore. I'm not sure I know how to make one, at this point in my life, who I'd trust the same way. Maybe that's the real cost. Not the money. The math of what you're willing to believe about people, after someone you loved, rewrites it for you.
She took my promotion. I took her job. This is a story about a woman named Diana and about how she taught me completely by accident, that I was capable of being far more ruthless than I thought. I worked at a tech company in Austin for 4 years. Project manager, enterprise software division. I was good at my job. Not bragging, just establishing context. I had the numbers. I had the client satisfaction scores. I had the reviews. Diana joined the team about 18 months after me. Smart, polished, good with senior leadership in the way some people are, effortlessly, instinctively. We weren't close friends, but we were friendly. Or, I thought we were. When the senior PM position opened up, the one above both of us, we both applied. Internally, management knew we were both candidates. The process was supposed to be a standard internal review, portfolio, interview, recommendation from our direct manager, Tom. Tom liked me. He told me directly, not in a promises were made way, but in a you're the front runner way. I felt good about it. Then, the week before the decision was announced, something shifted. I started noticing that meetings I should have been in, I wasn't being invited to. Small things, a strategy session here, a client call there. And Tom, who had always been straightforward with me, became suddenly vague. Diana got the promotion. I was disappointed, genuinely. But I accepted it. I congratulated her. I told myself, this happens, keep going, there will be another opportunity. And then, about a month later, I had lunch with a colleague named Priya. She seemed uncomfortable. After about 20 minutes, she said, I need to tell you something, and I'm not sure I should, but I think you'd want to know. Tell me, I said. The week before the decision, Diana had gone to Tom privately and told him that she had concerns about me. Specifically, that I had been sharing confidential client information with a competitor. It was completely false. There was no evidence because there was nothing to find, but the accusation alone was enough to make Tom hesitate, enough to make him think, what if? Enough to tip the decision. She hadn't filed anything officially, hadn't put it in writing, just a quiet word, in the right ear, at the right moment. I sat with this for 3 days. Then I made some decisions. The first thing I did was request a meeting with HR, not to report Diana, not yet, just to ask, hypothetically, about the process for raising concerns about a colleague's conduct. I wanted to understand the landscape. The second thing I did was start documenting everything. Every meeting Diana ran as senior PM, every decision she made, every deadline, every deliverable, every client interaction I could observe or verify. I wasn't looking for mistakes. I was looking for patterns. It took about 6 weeks to find what I was looking for. Diana had a habit, small but consistent, of taking credit in senior meetings for work done by the team. Not aggressively, subtly, using I instead of we, presenting analyses as her own that had been built by analysts who reported to her. On its own, this is common enough in corporate environments. Annoying but not disqualifying. But one of those analysts, a quiet, excellent woman named Keisha, had been passed over for a performance bonus that quarter. Despite doing the work that Diana was presenting as hers, I talked to Keisha carefully, honestly. I told her what I was doing and why, and I asked if she was willing to document what had happened. She was. 2 others on the team came forward on their own after that. Turns out, this had been going on longer than I knew. I took everything to HR. Not just the credit taking, but also with Priya's permission, an account of what Diana had said to Tom about me. The investigation took 4 weeks. Diana was placed on a performance improvement plan. 6 weeks after that, she resigned. Tom pulled me into his office the day after she left. I owe you an apology, he said. I should have verified before it affected the decision. Yes, I said, you should have. He offered me the senior PM role. I took it. Keisha got her bonus retroactively, and a formal promotion 6 months later. Here's what I think about when I look back. I didn't go after Diana out of anger. I went after the situation. I followed the facts where they led, and the facts happened to lead directly to her. She made one mistake. She assumed that someone she had quietly kneecapped would stay down.
They cut me out of the will. I was fine with it. When my father died, I inherited nothing. His estate went entirely to my older brother Garrett. The house, the savings, the car, everything. My name was not in the will. Not less than Garrett. Not there at all, and here is the thing I need you to understand before I tell you the rest. I wasn't surprised. My father and I had a complicated relationship. That's the polite version. The honest version is, we had almost no relationship at all for the last 11 years of his life. The falling out happened when I was 26. I left the family business, a construction supply company that my grandfather had started and my father had run for 30 years. I left because I had never wanted to be in it. I left because I had a job offer in Seattle, a real one, in a field I actually cared about. And I took it. My father took it as a personal rejection, which, to be fair to him, from his perspective, it probably was. He had built that company with the assumption that his sons would inherit it and run it. Garrett had stayed. I hadn't. We spoke maybe twice a year after that, holidays when I could make it back. Stiff conversations over dinners where no one said the thing they were actually thinking. He never visited me in Seattle. I invited him twice, he declined both times. So when he died, and the will was read, and my name wasn't in it, I felt grief, real, genuine grief, but not about the money. I grieved the version of him that had existed before everything went wrong. The man who used to take me fishing on Saturday mornings when I was 10, who knew every star in the winter sky by name, who smelled like sawdust and coffee. That man I missed. The man who had quietly cut me out of his life over a career decision and never once tried to rebuild what we had. I had already grieved him years earlier. Garrett called me the week after the funeral. He seemed uncomfortable. I know it's not fair, he said. I told him so. He wouldn't change it. I'm sorry. I'm fine, I told him. And I meant it. I want to split it. Garrett said. 50-50. What's in the estate? Not out of pride. Not to make a point. But because, and I had to think through this carefully, taking that money would have meant accepting a version of the story where the ending was the same regardless of everything that came before. And I didn't want that story. What I did instead, and this took me about 3 months to decide, was write my father a letter. He was already gone. He couldn't read it. But I needed to write it anyway. I wrote about the fishing trips, about the stars, about the morning I told him I was leaving, and the way his face went very still, very controlled, the way it did when he was hurt and wouldn't say so. I wrote about what I wished I'd said then, what I wished he'd said, the 11 years of Christmases that were technically fine and emotionally hollow, the invitations he declined, the conversations we never had. And then, at the end, I wrote this. I don't think you were wrong to be hurt. I think you were wrong to let it become permanent. I would have come back, not to the business, but to you, if you'd ever left the door open. You never did. And I think, somewhere, you knew that was a choice. Not just something that happened. A choice. I forgive you for it. I just wish you'd made a different one. Addressed it to him. And put it in a box. Garrett eventually convinced me to take a small portion of the estate. Not half. Enough to take my kids to the Oregon coast for a week. A trip we'd been putting off. We went in August. My daughter found a starfish in a tide pool. My son learned to body surf. One evening, just before sunset, I looked up at the sky and tried to remember the name of the star my father had pointed out once on a cold November night 30 years ago. I couldn't remember it. That's the part that got me. Not the will, not the money, just a star name dissolving slowly because the person who told it to me is gone, and we ran out of time to say the things that would have made forgetting feel less like loss. I still have the letter in the box. I don't know what to do with it. Some nights I think I should burn it. Some nights I think I should send it to Garrett, just so someone who knew him can read it. Most nights, I just leave it where it is. Some things don't need a resolution. They just need to exist somewhere, so they stop living only inside you.